So we are solving question 3 of the February IT 9626 paper 2. Okay, so in this question, this is the preamble. You have been asked to create a small game of tic-tac-toe in a spreadsheet. This is a 2-player game that starts with a blank board. Each player places their symbol, either an O or an X, into one square. Then the next player takes a turn. The player wins the game when they get 3 of their symbols in a vertical, horizontal, or diagonal line. For example, game 1, O goes first. So empty one, O takes the middle, X takes left top corner. Next is O's turn. O takes left bottom corner. Is X's turn. X takes right bottom corner. And then now O takes right top corner, and therefore O wins game 1. Now, as you can see, there is a condition over here. Conditional formatting over here, where when O wins, it's a green. But as you can see in game 2, when X wins, it's a green as well. And when O wins, it's a green as well. In this time, in the middle column, in the middle row. Okay, so we understand what we are trying to do. It's the first thing you do in any question. Try to understand what they want you to do. So now the question comes. Create a new spreadsheet that looks like this. Okay, so we can see the whole thing. It has borders, and the formatting, we can see it is horizontal center align and vertically center align or middle align. It has thick borders as well, and the font is quite large. Looking at the size of the column labels and row labels. All right, let's continue with the reading, as we should all do before we start answering. Cell B2 to D4 must contain a 48-point sans serif font, like I said. Now we have a value to it. Restrict the data entry for cells B2 to D4 so that they can only contain an uppercase letter O, uppercase letter O, and uppercase letter X, uppercase letter X, or be blank. Allow the user to select these letters from a drop-down menu. Display an appropriate prompt for the user and an error message if incorrect data is entered. Display an appropriate prompt, okay, for the user and an error message if incorrect data is entered. So let's go ahead and do this one. What are we supposed to do? We have to open Excel. We open Excel. And when you open Excel, as we can see, B2 right down to D4 is what we have to format according to the question. And we go and look at the question. Have it right here. So B2 to D4, it has to look somewhat like that. No dimension for the height or the width, so we can assume what we have. The best way to go about this is, since we know the size of the font, we can set that from the onset to guide us with the height and the width as well. It said 48 and it's sans serif. Calibri is sans serif. We can leave that as that. So as you can see, it's been adjusted for us. Now, what do we need? Borders. So let's deal with the borders as well. If we can use this one, but as you can see, it's quite thin. So the best thing is to get yourself into the more borders Then we go here and then we can increase the borders to a thicker size like this, and now we can use this and that to make sure we have all the borders quite thick. And we say OK, and it applies. Now let's get ourselves data so that you can use that to measure how big our cell needs to be, because it's now 48. Okay, so now when we compare it to the paper, we can see whether we need more width, more height, which it's obvious we do. So let's go back here, give ourselves, select them this way and give ourselves a little bit more height, select here this way and give a lot more width. Now we can now talk about alignment, horizontal center, vertical middle, and now it looks more of what is on the paper. Right now we are ready to go. The formatting is ready. Can enter X just to make it look a bit like what the paper has, and it looks okay. It looks okay. So now there we go. We are done with this side. We have 48 points. Sans serif Calibri will give us that sans serif, and we have our borders thick enough. The alignments are all set as well. So we are done with this side of the question. Now it says restrict the data entry for cells B2 to D4 so that they can only contain an uppercase letter O, an uppercase letter X, or be blank. So we have to restrict that. But it asks that allow the user to select these letters from a drop-down menu. So we know we have to use a list. Display an appropriate prompt. So we know we have to get the prompt going for the user, and this is also very important, and an error message if incorrect data is entered. So we need both a prompt and an error message in addition to our list. Let's see how we do that. So we highlight the places we need to format. Then what do we do to change the data types, and then to create the validation? We go to data, we go to data validation, then we select that. Now what do we need? We know we need a list. Now what is inside this list? We said uppercase X and uppercase O and blank, if you watch what the question is saying over here, or be blank. So we also need a blank. But how do we set the blank? This checkbox will make sure it is blank. We can include blank as well, right? So we make sure this checkbox is checked. Then it also adds that allow the user to select these letters from a drop-down menu. So it means our drop-down menu over here must also be checked. In cell drop-down, because they said it's a drop-down menu, and we are set to go with this validation. But then they were told to add a prompt. Display an appropriate prompt. Where do we do that? That is what we have here in input message. In input message. So there must be a prompt to tell the user what to do over here. So the title of the prompt can be an alert. Title of the prompt can be alert, just to catch attention. And then what will we say? Please input uppercase X or uppercase O, like that. Now we are done with the prompt, but they also asked that end an error message if incorrect data is entered. Where would we do that? Coming back to here, we have error message where we can say title, we can say error, and then we can repeat what we entered over here. It's fine. Please, now for every error message, you must let the user know exactly what they must do to make things right. So we say, please input uppercase X or uppercase O, and that will be that. Okay. Then we are done. So now we have a prompt whenever we select it according to the question. Allow the user to select from the user. Display an appropriate prompt for the user and an error message if incorrect. Okay, so that's what you are done. So here is where we are. All right, so let's go on to, so we are done with question 3. Let's go on to question 4. Use 8 conditional formatting rules so that only the 3 winning cells have a green background. Save your spreadsheet as TTT followed by your center number, candidate number. For example, TTT ZZ999 underscore 9999, and it's 14 marks. So that's the question. Use 8 conditional formatting rules so that only the 3 winning cells have a green background. What does that mean to our spreadsheet? Now it's saying only the winning cells. So it doesn't matter what they are in it. If it's a winning cell, okay, so this one tests our validation and it's working all right. So it won't accept lowercase o, only uppercase O. Good. Now if the winning cells are these, then it must be formatted with a green background, like that. If we have a winning cell, a winning group of cells like X here and X here, then this and that must have a formatting of green. That's what they want to say from that. So we must create a conditional formatting to approach that. Now conditional formatting, you can do it in many ways. You can do it in many ways, but here they were specific, 8 of them, which means we can't just do, if this is O and we should make it green if that is O as well, and that, no, that will be too many. So how do we count the 8? It means we need a conditional formatting for that. That will be 1. For this row, that will be 2. For that row, that will be 3. Then we take the columns. For this row, that will be 4. For that row, that will be 5. For this row, that will be, you get where we are going with this. This will be 6. So all the combination, the winning combinations we have to cover. Then we have 6 already. How about here, 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 and here? This is another row, that will be 7. And your guess is as good as mine. Here, here, and here. This will make the 8th row. The 8th row. Okay, so how do we create this conditional formatting? In this case, we need a formula for this to work, for all of it to work. And the formula must depend on one of the cells at least. So in this case, do we have any one cell that can help us generate the information? No, we don't have any one cell. So we have to generate information for ourselves. What we can do is get an information displaying where the winning is, and then depending on the displaying, the information being displayed in that cell, we can get the conditional formatting to work for a group of cells, for a row or a diagonal set of cells, right? So what can we do? manually, which I like my students to do, we can just try out 0 0 0, and then we can say, probably we can say a win here. We can do a win here, then the system will know, oh, so we can say if this side says a win, then format this side in green. If that side says a win, then format that side in green. If this side says a win, format, you get what we are going with that. So that and that as well we can do. How about the diagonals? Of course we can do here and here. It will be the same. Then we can format these to say green, to be filled with green if that side shows a win. But it's not limited to win. It can be anything you are comfortable with. But we only need that so that we can generate a comprehensive formula for our conditional formatting. Okay, so what can we do here? What are we going to do to display something to show the system that there is a win in this particular row? Now we can get into our formula work. What formula would that be? It's a simple formula. If this is O, capital letter O, and that is also capital letter O, and that is also capital letter O, then show win, show one, show I, any sign you want. Okay, right? So how do we write this? How do we write this? Simple. Equal to what? If what? If this side is equal to capital O, right? What else can you do? You can use the AND to combine these ones, because this is capital O, that should be capital O, and yet again D2 should be also capital O before we can say capital O1. So it means in this case we need to combine these conditions with an AND. If that would do the job for us, of course we can. There are other methods. Some people can also try to use a counting of the O, which will also work very fine. You count if that side says O, or you count if that side says O, and you count the O's in that group of cells, and if they are equal to 3, then you know O has won. Then you can go ahead and do what. So you can do that, right? So let's use the AND for now. So in the AND case, you are going to say AND. So now we can combine the different conditions. If B2 equals O, and what? And C2 equals O as well. So our it's messing up a bit, and it's going to go down, and then okay, let's go on, and then we see, and then the D2 is also equal to capital O as well. That's the end of that. So if that is true, then show anything you want to show. Probably, let's say you want to show win. Right, like win, like that. Else you want to show nothing. That's okay. I'm sorry about the way the formula was displayed. So this is it. If, let me see, by expanding this side, if it would, Yes, this is better. So if and B2 is equal to O, and C2 is equal to O, and D2 is equal to O, which means the player has succeeded in playing O here, and O here. So what should happen if all these are correct? All these conditions are met. The end will say it is true. So if it is true, then do this side of the if. If not, do that side of the if. It's simple. So let's say equal to, and now as you can see, it's a win, right? So let's try. So this is O. Let's remove the O and see if our win will show. As you can see, it vanished. Let's bring back the O and capital O. Our win is back. Okay, great. So now that we have a sign here, we can depend on this sign to do the job we want. But as you can see, we need to replicate this so that we have signs all along, so the conditional formatting can do its work nicely. And as you can also see, we are not completed our formula yet. What else is needed? The X part, of course. The X part, because this is the O. How about the X? How about if the X player wins using that rule? What would you do? Of course, we can copy the whole thing from N here, just the N side of it. Let's copy it. So this is when the O wins. How about when the X wins? So for that, it's either O wins or X wins. How would you say that? You can use the or here. So if this and this side is true, which means O wins, or now we paste our second end, and your guess is as good as mine. We can change the O's to X's. O's to X's. O's to X's. Okay, so if X's also win, so we come to our end, the end of our OR. So if the O's win, this comma is for the OR. So if the O's win or the X's win, you should say win. Right? Let's hit enter. And now let's test and see. X here, the win is lost. X here is not back now. Moment of truth, X here, and it works. So it works for both O and it works for X as well, both O and X. So now we have this. So we can replicate this to here and here, right? Let's go ahead and do that so that we get that as well. And the formula is also replicated beautifully. We have no issues because they are all supposed to come down, right? Right, so beautiful. How about this side? What we can do though is we can retype everything in here, but there's one very effective way of dealing with an issue like that. Watch. So you copy the formula, you bring it to this cell, paste it in this cell, and now watch. As you can see, the colors, the cells have been color coded. The cells have been color coded, but at this point it's for this color. So what do you think we should do? Of course, move the colors to the cells. Right now they are left with this side too. This one goes there and that one goes there, and now this side should work. Let's try and see. O, and it's working. How about X? X. Oh, and we lost the win. X and X. It's working. So all we have to do now is we run one more here and we are done. So now we are done with here and here. what do we need to do next? The diagonals as well. So let's try the diagonals. How would you solve the diagonal? It's very easy as well. So we can say equal to if right, and as you can see, it's going to follow the same order as this. So what we can do is just paste the old one like that, and now your guess is as good as mine. We can move the colors again. Here goes there, and there goes there. Here goes to here, and there goes to there. And we are done with this diagonal. Let's come here, paste. So this we can retype, but as you can see, since in an exam situation we would need to use the little time we have for what we have to do, it's better we move these things, because that makes a faster transformation of a formula. So we are done with that as well. So we have a win in the diagonal, and it's working fine, as you can see over here. So now we have marked all these. We have marked all that, and now we can go ahead and do our formatting. Okay, let's do the formatting, shall we? So now we are going to create a conditional formatting for this. So we highlight this row. We can begin with one that would make us aware if the whole thing is working. So let's highlight this row. Now that we know it's working, and what are we going to say? If this side says a win, if this cell says a win, then these must be formatted as green. Right? Okay, let's do that. So we highlight the cells first, we go to conditional formatting, we go to manage rules, and then we get ourselves a new rule. And we're going to use a formula. Now, when we select that formula, what we'll have to do is we have to say equal to what? The formula is if this cell that I'm pointing at, so we click, is equal to what? Win. W capital I-N. W small I-N, as I can see from here. That's how we did it. So we do that like that. I will copy this because I might use it more times than not. So I'll copy that, and I'll say okay. And I didn't apply any format, did I? So let's go back and edit this rule. And now once I've typed this one, if E2, which is here, is equal to win, then format it this way. So you click on format, and then what do we want to do? We want to fill it with what? Color green. We say okay, and okay, and apply. So let's go back to our question paper and make sure we set 8 conditions. You are done with 1 formatting rules, that so that only the 3 winning cells have a green background. So let's go in there, let's watch what they want us to do. So as you can see, this is exactly what they want us to do, and it looks like we've ended up with something close to that. Yes, that's it. Okay, let's test it out and see if it's working correctly. So let's change this to capital O, and we are off. How about all O's and O, and we are back. So it's working perfectly. So this is our first rule. You know where this is going to go, right? Second rule, third rule, fourth rule, fifth rule, sixth rule, seventh rule, and 8th rule. Good. So let's go ahead and finish up with this. Rule number 2, this one, conditional formatting, manage rule, new rule, use formula, and you can paste the formula. Instead of E2, this time it's E3. Then do the formatting, green, say OK, click on OK, click on OK, and apply. We are done with the second rule. Let's do the third rule. Highlight, conditional formatting, manage rule, new rule, formula. Enter the formula. In this case, it's E4. Change it to E4. Okay. And we have to set the formatting. It should be green. Yes. Okay. Okay. Apply. Okay. So this is also done. How about this? We highlight it, go to conditional formatting, manage rules, add a new rule, select it, paste the formula. This time it's supposed to be here, right? So it's going to be D5. So we go in there and change it to D5. I'll copy this one more time because I don't want to make more changes. So now that I have that, I'll format it as green, and then we go on as well. Okay, apply that as well. Now from here we can always create a new one and edit, but like this: new format. So let's say we are going on to the next one, which is C5. We paste our formula, we change it from D to C5. We format it and say OK. Use this color. Great job. Then we say OK, and now we are here on this one. So this one is saying D2 to D, but we know it's supposed to be C2 to C4. Sorry, to C4. So whichever one you think is easy for you, you can apply that, either by finishing and saying applying and then closing everything and then go into select and do it, or you do your copy and paste and change the formula here. Whichever one floats your boat, it's fine. So I'll go ahead and do this one more time for the B column. The formula is that, and now instead of D5 we are on to B5. Then we say format and we change the color and we say OK, and then we say OK. And now with B5 we are changing from D to B. D to B. Some people might be confused by this, so if that's your issue, you can always close this whole thing once you are done, and then highlight the next one. The next one is that and that and that, and I highlighted it holding on control click, hold on control click, hold on control click, and we go to conditional formatting, manage rules, add a new rule. We do that and we paste the formula. And now what is the corner? This angle marker is in this cell, which is E5. We are going to change this to E5. Then we change the format to green. And we say OK. And as you can see, it said B2, C3, and D4, right? We apply and we say OK. We do the same to here as well. Highlight. Again, highlight, 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 holding on control. And then we go to that and we go to manage rules. and we add a new rule, and sorry, we add a new rule, and we select here, we paste it. We are saying if in this case now it's A5, we change it to A5. This green, we say okay, but we didn't format it. So let's go back and do the formatting to green, and that is how we are done with that. That's how you get to do that one, and we are done. That's great. So let's test the whole system and see now how it behaves. So player 1 X, player 2 O, player 3 X, player 1 goes now X here, player 2 goes O here, and player 1 goes X here, and there you go. It's working nicely. We can try out all this as well. Okay, but then the win that is showing in here might not be what, according to the question paper, we don't see anything here and here. So what you want to do is you might want to mask it so that then nothing shows over there. So you can change the color of the font to white. That way it doesn't matter what you do, nothing will show and it looks okay, right? We have to get rid of our border over there. So let's get rid of that border. This border is not necessary. Get rid of it, and now we are okay. Great. So that brings us to the end of this particular question. Question 4, 14 marks. And that is what we just did. Now let's go on to the next question 5. Create a new word process document and save it as evidence, followed by your, I forgot to do the saving of the file over here. So you can go ahead and do the saving of the file. Right click, you go to file and then you do your saving, your save as, and you save your file correctly as you want. Okay. Now let's go on to this one. We are supposed to get a Word document. Question 5. Create a new Word process document and save it as evidence, followed by your center number and candidate number. Just like that. In this new document, create a test plan to test only one of your 8 conditional formatting rules within your test plan. Identify what is to be tested, the rule used, the 3 cells it applies to. Now select the appropriate test data for all possible results for this rule. Use this test plan to fully test this rule. Record the results in your test plan and save the document. Okay, so we have to create a test plan to test only one of our 8 conditional formatting rules. Only one of our 8 conditional formatting rules within our test plan. Rules. So within the test plan, we have to identify what is to be tested, the rule used, the 3 cells it applies to. Now, how do you go about doing this? So with this one, we have to open a Word document. So let's open a Word document. And we're going to create a test table. Now with the test table, they gave us what we are supposed to show on this test table. What are we supposed to show? In this document, create a test plan to test only one of your 8 conditional formatting rules, right? So this test table is going to test one conditional formatting rule. Okay, one conditional formatting rule, right? And that information must come out that you are testing one of your conditional formatting rules that apply to a particular set of cells, right? What else? You must identify what is to be tested, which is clearly one of the 8 formatting rules. The rule that you use, which you must clearly state the rule exactly, and then the 3 cells that is applied to in this test. Now, we are also told to select the appropriate test data for all possible results for this rule. For all possible results for this rule. It's going to be a lot of combinations here, as you can tell, but looking at the mark, we can clearly see that it's a 12 mark question. And if we look at the combinations that we are looking at, we have a win for X, a win for O, and nothing happening for either the game not ended yet or nothing being entered. We can see that we have 3 already. In addition to the information they want here, the 3 cells here, the rule used here, and what you are testing for, we have 6 as well. So clearly, we don't really need to extensively show all the possible combinations. That will go way past the 12. So we can do 1 for when X wins, 1 for when O wins, and maybe 2 for when none of them win. And that should be okay. If you don't have time, we are out of time, you can hold on there, go do other questions. If you finish all other questions, then you have time. You can add on to this information. Now, let's go and find out how we can do this particular table. So we've opened Word. Here in Word, we need to insert a table, right? So let's insert a table. But how many columns, how many rows? Don't worry. You go with the maximum you can get for now, like this. And then if you end up not needing a row or a column, you can always delete it, because now this is not a normal test table that we are used to. So you develop it as you apply yourself to the question. First off, they ask that we define what we want to test for, what is to be tested, and that is what one of our 8 conditional formatting rules. So we have to state that, and that is going to be test. What are we testing for? So in this cell, we would explain what we are testing for. We are testing for one of okay, so you can state it. We're testing for conditional formatting rule for cells. You can say B2, comma, C2, and D2. This is what we are testing for, right? Okay. So if this is what we are testing for, next information that we need to give is explain the rule. What is the rule? The rule is, so that is going to be the rule. And don't worry to just start doing something. You can always rearrange the structure if it doesn't suit. So the rule is for B2, C2, D2, the rule is if E2 is equal to win, then the field of B2, C2, and D2 must be green, like that. A few of cells. Okay, so this is what we are testing for. All right. Oh, sorry, this is the rule for our conditional formatting. Now, what other information must we look at? The 3 cells it applies to, but these 3 cells will contain data, right? And it says select the appropriate test data for all possible results, right? So we know that when we are creating a test, we need to define the data. So we can say here, the following will be our data, but then the data is contained in cell B2, cell C2, and cell D2. So by doing this, we have defined all the cells. And as you can see clearly, we need to merge this side of our table. So we go ahead and merge the cells. Great. You can center it as well if you want to. Then now we have our data over here. We can have all the data that we need over here. Now, what next? What do we need? What does this table need? What does a test table need? It needs expected outcome. So let's write expected outcome. And then let's write, after expected outcome, what do we have? Actual outcome. All right. So now we have it. And now, before we go on with, we can restructure the table so it looks better. For instance, why don't you merge here and here so that okay, so and let's center it like that. Let's do the same here. Merge here and here and center it like that. Okay, so now it's looking good. But how about this side? It doesn't look good over here. So what we want to do is, which one is more? It looks like this is more than that. So we can format this side by merging this side like that. And then, okay, since the actual, so for the actual outcome, we are going to paste our screenshots to show what actually happened. That's what we're going to put in the actual outcome. So we will need a wider cell. So I would rather go for putting this information right here because it will be expanded. Then getting rid of this information as well, putting it in here. And what I want to do is, since this doesn't have any space to go anywhere, I would rather merge here like that. And then now I can, yeah, so now that this is merged, it's fine. It looks like we won't need this row, this column and that column. And that's what I was talking about. Don't be afraid to choose any dimension to start with. You can always add it. So let's delete the columns. And now we can expand this side as much as we want, like that. And even expand here a little so that it looks better. Okay, so there we go. We have something like that. So this table is going to contain the data here, appropriate data we have, then expected outcome. It can be it worked, or it can be it showed green. It can be that it filled with green, or it did not have any fill. That's what we expect to happen depending on the data we enter here. Then we'll paste the actual outcome. So let's go do our test. Let's go to our sheet. And we are talking about B2, C2, and D2. So let's use them and only them. So let's get rid of that. So the first is the data I'm going to enter for the first test is this and that and that. What happens? Good. Now let's go to our table. We can take a screenshot. Okay, let's go to our table. What did we expect to happen? What's the data? X and X and X. And what did we expect to happen? Green field is supposed to happen. The cell is supposed to be filled with green, right? Let's readjust the table a tad bit. Good. With a green field. Okay. So that's the expected outcome, green field. Then how about next data? O, no, letter O, and O and O. How about this one too? Of course, we're looking for a green field. Let me finish this one before I even go on to this one. So, actual outcome, what happened? Here is where we can insert our screenshot of what actually happened. So, let's go insert a screenshot. So, we are going to get a screenshot. And now, you can take a shot like that to show what actually happened. And it comes as big as it is. You can always reduce it like that. So we have a green field. Next, this one too, what are we supposed to get? We are supposed to get a green field. Right? So we go in there and test that as well. So that is, the data is O and O, sorry, it won't allow me, cancel. O and O and O. And we have a green field. So we go in there and then we insert a screenshot showing that as well. That nicely done. Anything apart from this shouldn't work, right? So we can give ourselves one. In fact, I'll urge you to do two more. So let's do X and O and maybe another X, right? And what do we expect to happen? No field, right? No field should be no field. I'll change this to small. Okay, so we shouldn't have any field. So let's go test that and see that as well. So it was let's check back and see XOX, right? So we have X, O, and X, no field. So we take evidence of that. Come in here and put the evidence in there. So we insert screenshot evidence. Like this. Like this. So this is it, and you add one more to it. It's always the best to do so. Let's add one more to it. Add one more, and then let's just give another set of data with a blank so that we cover all possible sets, right? So we have, in this case, let's do O and a blank and an X. So what should we expect here? In this case, it should be no field. So would that be the case? Let's go try it and see. So we have O here, and a blank here, and an X here. Again, no field to it. So let's go paste the actual outcome. Set. It will be a good idea to make sure that after you've tested, this location, this address box would feature an address that is not part of the row you are choosing to test, so that they know that you have selected, you have pressed enter key or the carriage return, and the data is fully recognized by the software. Okay, so it's one thing you should also note. You never know, maybe it might be marked, it might be looked at, it might be considered. So always try to be as safe as you can be. So all is showing D3, that means you are away from the data. So the data has been recognized by the system. Right. So this is a test table that you can do. Now, as you know, as A-level students, you have to distinguish your labels apart from your data. So you might want to make them a bit bolder like that, so they stand out as labels. Bold and a bit bigger. Same applies here. So we can just get the paint for this one. What else is there? There for that one, and that's for that one. Okay, and it must be consistent as well. Okay, so there we go. This one, probably we want it to be in the things here, and the same applies here as well. Okay, and this is the table that we are looking at now. This is a test table. Okay, so that would answer our 12 mark question. 12 mark question. So that ends the Excel part of this demonstration. Thank you very much.